Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Let's go ahead and open up that Zoom room and let everyone in. My name is Ruth Ellen Sanchez, and I am filling in for Rebecca Dukes. And we are glad that you are all here. And I want to get this out of the way. This program is for educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results may vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. And that is one of the purposes of this show, to show you that you have options. And so you can ask questions of health, naturopathic professionals and different doctors. And today we have an amazing doctor, a woman I admire greatly. She is an author, and she wrote a book, Why is America So Sick? That's a big title. It's so true. America is the sickest country, I think, in the world. So we have Dr. Joanne Conaway today, and she is a retired lieutenant colonel from the U.S. Air Force. She has a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. She's a registered nurse. She has a Certificate of Wellness with honors, Doctor of Traditional Naturopathy. So I am going to go ahead and bring Dr. Conaway on with me, and we're going to start our conversation, and I can talk today. Welcome, Dr. Conaway.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here today, and thank you so much for having me. You know, it's interesting. I have looked forward to doing this for a long time, and just the timing has never been right. And finally, here I am. So I'm very excited about this. And just for those of you who don't know me and have not had the opportunity to hear me speak in the past, as Ruth Ellen said, I was a nurse. I was a nurse for a long time. I was a nurse in the hospital setting for a little over 40 years. And during that time, I had the opportunity to take care of people who could no longer eat by mouth. Now, this was back in the late 1970s, early 80s. We realized we could keep people alive who could no longer eat by mouth. And during that time, we knew people needed carbohydrates and proteins. We quickly learned people needed essential fatty acids. But we also learned that people had a need for many minerals and trace minerals that we were not aware of. We had learned of these things in the periodic table in the classroom, but really didn't realize that the human body had a need for selenium and molybdenum and boron and zinc and copper and all of the things that we are keenly aware of now. So that, like I said, late 1970s, early 80s. So fast forward to the mid 90s, and I hear Dead Doctors Don't Lie on cassette tape. Okay, we're going back a few years, all right? So I hear Dead Doctors Don't Lie on cassette, and I'm like very excited. I came home and I said to my husband, oh my gosh, you've got to listen to this guy. I know exactly what he's talking about. I know exactly what he's saying. I have taken care of people who could no longer eat by mouth, and they were suffering the maladies that he talks about with respect to mineral deficiencies. So I, interestingly enough, and I tell the story, you know, I immediately started taking the product that this particular cassette tape was recommending. And so we're about 6 or 8 months into it. My husband said, are you seeing any real changes? And I said, no, not really. I said, but I know that his message is right on. I'm not going to stop taking these products. Interestingly enough, within just a few days of that conversation, he gets an email saying Dr. Wallach's own 100% plant-derived colloidal minerals. And it was like, would you look into this for me? I thought we were taking Dr. Wallach's minerals. Come to find out, we were taking minerals from a company that had pirated Dr. Wallach's cassette. So the minerals we were taking were not the minerals from Dr. Wallach's company. We started taking Dr. Wallach's minerals, and within a very short period of time, like I'm going to say maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we started to see changes. We started to see differences. So I have been with Dr. Wallach and been on this bandwagon since January of 1999. So I've been around a few years and seen a lot of changes, but the fact remains, we have these products that are the most amazing products that money can buy. Now, what I talk about, because it has become a passion of mine, is the gut microbiome, the importance of recognizing that we have the best nutritionals out there. However, if your gut is not working, you're not healthy, and those nutritionals that you're taking are not being as well absorbed. So I'm going to take the opportunity to share my slides with you and just kind of highlight the things that I am most passionate about. So when I talk in terms of the fact that you are the only you. Literally, you are so unique in as much as you have a microbiome that is unlike anyone else's. And this microbiome that you have has command and control of your body from the womb to the grave and beyond. Wow. So there are several different microbiomes each and every one of us have. We also recognize that with respect to bacteria, there are 10 times more bacteria than cells in the human body. And the majority are found in the gastrointestinal tract. But once again, they're also in the skin, the mouth, the genitourinary system, the eyes. And all of these areas have their own various bacterial species. So your microbiome makes you unique. And microbiome health literally is established before birth. Microbial communities exist after death. We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. So let's talk about the gastrointestinal system. Interestingly enough, we recognize it as the most metabolically active organ in the human body. Wasn't always recognized that way, but as research became more in tune with bacteria, bacterial colonies, and what actually happens in the human body, the gastrointestinal system itself has been identified as the most metabolically active organ in the body. It's a long tube of muscle. This long tube of muscle provides for peristaltic waves, which helps to move through the food that we take in, the digestion motility, if you will, and also the migrating motor complex. Interestingly enough, migrating motor complex, not something we've always understood, but the migrating motor complex becomes very important because it's responsible for literally cleaning out the trash. It starts at the end of the stomach and goes through the entire small intestine. A couple of important things to recognize about the migrating motor complex. When we talk about it, people say, oh, I know that my gut is clean and my gut cleans out all the time. Not true, okay? We know that the migrating motor complex itself, which is a peristaltic wave moving leftover bacteria and fibers and all of the things that need to be moved through, does not even kick in and start working until 2 to 3 hours after you eat a meal. The other thing that's interesting is it takes a full 2 hours for it to complete. So literally, we're talking a period of about 4 to 5 hours for this migrating motor complex to do its job after you've eaten. Many people don't have 4 to 5 hours between meals. Many people graze all day long. And it's thought that this is one of the reasons why we are seeing such an increase in the numbers of cases of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Literally, that trash is not taken out. So that's the muscular side. The interesting thing, though, is the fact that the gastrointestinal system is also a long tube of nerves. We refer to it as the enteric nervous system, often called the second brain, and literally communication between the brain and the gastrointestinal tract takes place via a bidirectional gut-brain axis. Biochemical signaling from the gut to the brain, from the brain to the gut. It is referred to once again as the second brain. So when we talk about the gut microbiota, literally it's the microbe population living within our, within our digestive system. We can talk about the mouth microbiota. And in fact, I've done a lot of research on that lately. I teach a class specific to that. We've learned an awful lot about the mouth microbiota over the course of the last 20 years. The gut microbiota has actually been studied for a lot longer than that. Interestingly enough, you would think that the mouth is the start of the gut, and indeed it is. But with respect to separating out the two microbiota, the gut has been studied for a lot longer. So our guts are dominated by a diverse array of bacteria. And the important thing to understand is not all are bad. In fact, the vast majority of bacteria in our guts and even in our mouths, those bacteria are healthy bacteria. Those bacteria are responsible for controlling hundreds of thousands of disease-causing pathogenic bacteria. We know that bacteria communicate with each other. We know that they can come together collectively as a group and do certain things. Lots of fascinating information being learned about bacteria and how bacteria actually work, and a better understanding of the fact that we all need bacteria. For many years, it was thought you don't want bacteria in your gut. You don't want bacteria in your mouth. We now know that that's not true. And we do know that those healthy bacteria are responsible for keeping us healthy. Uncontrolled, unhealthy bacteria will ultimately become pathogenic bacteria. So if you don't have a good balance, if you don't have an ample amount of good healthy bacteria, you're likely to have an overgrowth of unhealthy bacteria or fungus or yeast. And if that happens, you will not be healthy. So why is gut health important? We live in symbiosis with our bacteria. It's established at birth. We're now realizing that it's actually established before birth. But this allows us to gain the nutrients and the energy from the foods that we can't break down on our own. Our bacteria are actually responsible for breaking down the foods we take in. 10 to 100 trillion microbes live in the human body. That's more genes than the human genome. Our gut neurosystem, which is known as the second brain, has 200 to 600 million neurons. And we know and understand neurons with respect to the brain, but that's why the gut is referred to as the second brain, because of all the neurons that actually are in the gut. The gut-brain axis, I mentioned this a minute ago, the gut actually creates necessary neurotransmitters. One of the most fascinating things that I learned when I was studying to become a naturopath is serotonin and how important serotonin is with respect to our feel-good, okay? Serotonin is a feel-good hormone. The thing that was so fascinating was learning that 90% of it is synthesized in the gut. So these neurotransmitters affect mood. They send signals back and forth. All of these things are, again, important in the understanding of how our gut relates to our brain and our brain to our gut. Again, gut health is important because it protects from pathogens that get ingested. It provides energy. It breaks our foods down into short-chain fatty acids. It helps to regulate digestion. Some vitamins are exclusively made by some of these gut microbiota bacteria. So gut health is crucially important if we're going to stay healthy. So what are some of the factors that affect the gut microbiome? Well, certainly our genes. We can always say genes, genetic. Okay, we know that genes are not responsible for everything, but genes do play a part in whether or not we have a healthy gut microbiome. Certainly diet, sleep, gender. Our gut microbiome is dictated by gender. Lots to be discussed there, and certainly we don't have time for all of that today. Age, because we know that as we get older, our gut microbiome does not function as it did when we were young. Tremendous impact on hormones, and our hormones have an impact on our gut. Our hygiene, our oral hygiene, our physical hygiene have an impact on our gut microbiome. Our occupation. Do we live in a world where people have various different jobs that take them out of their home environment and into perhaps a factory or into some other area where they may be picking up other bacteria? Definitely. Stress levels, and that has a lot to do with that gut-brain axis, and exercise. If people are sedentary, they can impact their gut microbiome. People who over-exercise can also negatively impact their gut microbiome. So these are all factors that can affect that bacterial balance. So some things to consider when we're actually talking about the gut and the gut microbiota and the importance of maintaining a good, healthy gut. We have to think about our diets. We know that diets that are high in sugar, high in fats, like our hydrogenated oils and seed oils, these things promote what we refer to as gut dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is an imbalance. The good bacteria actually die off, and the bad bacteria begin to thrive. When we talk about our standard American diet or SAD diet, what we know is that most foods in our food supply, if they're prepackaged or processed, they are loaded with hidden sugars, they are loaded with seed oils, they are loaded with those things that make us so unhealthy. And people don't realize that what they're eating, what they're actually putting into their bodies, is in fact negatively impacting or affecting their gut. If you have too much stress in your life, you can develop what we refer to as leaky gut syndrome. Bad things leak out of the gut and into the blood. But interestingly enough, if you have leaky gut syndrome, that can also impact your brain function, which can lead to significant stress in your life. So you have to look at it from both perspectives. If you're someone who has chronic bloating or gas and you can't seem to get it under control, that could be because you have an overgrowth of unhealthy, or we refer to it as less desirable, bacteria in your gut. A big part of what makes us who we are is whether or not we have those neurotransmitters that will help with depression, that will help with mood. And what we know is if your gut's not healthy, as I said a minute ago, you do not have those neurotransmitters like serotonin. Serotonin is made in the gut. Less serotonin is going to be made if your gut is not healthy. A lack of energy. Food that's improperly broken down you can't derive energy from poorly digested food. A lot of times people will say, man, I used to eat a meal and I used to walk away feeling like I was energized, feeling like I had so much energy. Many people walk away from a meal wanting to go take a nap. Part of that is because of what's in their gut. If you're older, as I mentioned a minute ago, your microbiome just isn't the same. You have reduced microbiota diversity unless you take care of it. There's an increased risk of cancer and significant fluctuation of hormones, such as estrogen. These can actually trigger gut changes and possibly trigger tumor growth. So some symptoms that are associated with what we refer to as a leaky gut, meaning that what should be in your gut is leaking out into the circulation. Fatigue. I alluded to this a second ago. Often chronic, sometimes most noticeable after eating. Again, if you were that person who could eat a meal and feel like you had been energized and ready to go on with the rest of your day, and now all of a sudden you eat a meal and you want to go sit down and take a nap, probably that's because it's unhealthy bacteria that is digesting your food versus good healthy bacteria digesting your food. Poor digestion, constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, cramps, heartburn, anything that is a GI issue can be related to a leaky gut. Anything that is a GI issue can be related to an imbalance of bacteria in the gut. Vaginal infections, impotence, prostatitis, urinary infections, rectal itch. People will say to me a lot when we start talking about things like skin irritations and eczema and hives and psoriasis and athlete's foot, how can my gut have anything to do with my athlete's foot or my jock itch or my rectal itch? Well, interestingly enough, what we know is it has everything in the world to do with those things. And so many times people will come to me and they've been treating themselves with topical antifungals for years. They have chronic athlete's foot. And I say, well, let's work on fixing your gut. First of all, they get confused because they don't understand the link. But I say, just trust me on this. Let's fix your gut. And interestingly enough, we fix the gut and they don't have a problem with athlete's foot anymore. If you're someone who suffers frequent colds and flu, postnasal drip, bronchitis, asthma, sore throats, that means that your respiratory system is not as healthy as it could be. And that means that your gut is not as healthy as it could be. Allergies, both to foods and airborne chemicals. People who have allergies, sometimes they develop allergies to the strangest things. Never before had an allergy, all of a sudden they have allergies. Oftentimes it's, again, because of that bacterial imbalance. Sugar cravings, mood swings, headaches, especially migraine headaches, poor concentration and dizziness, depression, anxiety. In early childhood, what we often will see is hyperactivity, excessive anger, cradle cap, rashes, thrush, chronic infection. All of these things, again, can be associated with a leaky gut. And then hormonal imbalance and erectile dysfunction. What does my gut have to do with that? A lot. So, unhealthy gut bacteria. Inadequately controlled, unhealthy bacteria are going to process our foods differently. They will actually convert the foods and the molecules of food that we take in to poisons. Poisons then will pass through the gut lining and travel throughout the body, causing all kinds of disease. These poisons that pass through the gut can end up in different areas of the body and cause different problems. For example, they can end up in the joints and cause arthritic conditions. They can end up in the brain and cause mental disorders. With respect to the skin, we see eczema, rosacea. They can take up residence in the thyroid, and people develop Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is the most common thyroid problem. Again, because of an imbalance in the gut. So, quickly, some systemic impact of an unhealthy gut. With respect to gastrointestinal system, again, gas, bloating, acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, cramps, malabsorption. With respect to musculoskeletal system, poisons will pass through the gut lining and travel throughout the body, again, taking up residence in various different parts of the body and can cause arthritis or muscle pain. With respect to the cardiovascular system, very strong link between the gut and the cardiovascular system. People who have issues with high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, heart attacks, stroke, oftentimes have an imbalance of gut bacteria. Combine that with our unhealthy diet, and it's a recipe for disaster. Our endocrine systems, diabetics, people with thyroid disease, adrenal fatigue, high cortisol levels, anything that has to do with the endocrine system itself is directly impacted by the health of your gut. Reproductive system, many people suffer with infertility, erectile dysfunction, repeated miscarriages, again, can be linked to that imbalance. Because remember, when we talk about the gut microbiome, the balance of bacteria, meaning an ample amount of good and not too much of the bad, not too much of the yeast, not too much in terms of parasites, all of those things impact every other system in the body. With respect to the neurological system, we see Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, autism, ADD, and the integumentary system, again, chronic infections, fungal infections, cancers. All of these things can be linked to an unhealthy gut. I can remember when I was first studying this, right up until a few years ago, there was not a day that went by that there was not an article out there talking about the gut microbiota and its link to various different systems in the body. And we were really diving deep into the impact that a healthy gut has on every other system in the body. And I can remember one article, the title just kind of tickled me because it was like, oh my gosh, we really are drilling down. But the title was Your Gut Microbiome and Its Impact, or the Gut Microbiome and its impact on the strength and function of muscle in the elderly. It's like, wow, we are really drilling down. So let's talk just a minute about what we call the gut-brain axis. The gut-brain axis, when we talk about the gut-brain axis, it all happens via the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the 10th cranial nerve. It's the longest nerve in the body. It's the most complicated cranial nerve because it interfaces with everything in the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity. It controls the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, the digestive tract itself. Everything in the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity is dictated, or the function of all of those glands and organs are dictated by the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve provides for what we refer to as a bidirectional connection. When we talk about bidirectional, there's communication between the brain and the peripheral organs. So let's look at the tongue, for example, okay? When we think about the tongue, we don't spend a lot of time thinking about the tongue. If your tongue doesn't work, if your tongue's swollen for some reason, you can't talk well, that might be when you think about the tongue. If you take a sip of coffee and it's too hot and you burn your tongue, you might think about your tongue, but most of us don't pay any attention to our tongues. However, if you did, and if you started to try to put this whole tongue thing into focus, sensory information actually goes from the organ to the brain. So back to burning my tongue on a hot cup of coffee. Whoa, that wasn't so smart. I don't want to do that again, okay? And it's because an instant message went from my tongue to my brain, that's hot, don't do it again. By the same token, the brain actually controls the motor function of your organ. All the talking I've been doing because my tongue is working. And so when we talk about bidirectional communication, we have to recognize that messages go to the brain, messages come from the brain. So there's a primal connection between the gut and the brain. I'm sure you're all familiar with the term gut feeling, gut instinct, gut check, okay? So the gut-brain axis, it's an extensive network of neurons referred to as the second brain. It is also a highway of chemicals and hormones via that vagus nerve. And if you have decreased brain function and digestive issues, without a doubt, you have what we refer to as an impaired gut-brain axis. So some symptoms of an impaired gut-brain axis are going to be digestive issues, poor or sluggish digestion, constipation, diarrhea, irregular bowel movements, gas, bloating, cramps, abdominal distension, food intolerances to proteins, fats, carbohydrates. You're also going to have systemic issues, and those systemic issues are going to be some of the things I alluded to a few minutes ago. Your skin conditions, your dry skin, your rashes, your eczema, your brain fog, your inability to focus or concentrate, short attention span. All of these things are systemic issues related to an impaired gut-brain axis. With respect to neurological issues, we refer to it as gut and psychology syndrome, or GAPS. And this was first coined by a Russian physician, Natasha McBride. She actually had a child who was autistic, and she quickly realized that there was no one in her given field who could help her with this autistic child. And so she started to do some significant research. And what she learned while doing that research was there's a tremendous link between the gut and the brain. So in an adult, what you're likely to see is depression. And depression is often a missed diagnosis. Oftentimes, a person will go to their physician and say, "Doc, I'm depressed." And the doctor will say, "You're probably not really depressed. You got a lot going on. You got kids going off to college. You just bought a new house." Come up with all different kinds of excuses why a person might not be depressed. And oftentimes, the fix is some type of a sleeping medication. So you don't have depression. You know what? You probably just need to get a little bit more sleep. We're going to give you a drug to help you sleep. So depression is often, again, a misdiagnosis. Brain fog, lack of focus or inability to concentrate. If you're one of those people, and a lot of people say, "Oh, well, that's just getting older." That should not be happening as you're getting older, okay? But when we talk about lack of focus, just think about it like this. Are you that person who consistently walks into another room and you forget why you're there? Are you that person who can't concentrate? You sit down to read a book and you read the same paragraph 4 times and you still couldn't tell someone what you just read because you cannot focus and concentrate. A lot of times that has to do with the fact that you have an unhealthy gut. Manic depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder. Interestingly enough, all of these things that are considered psychiatric disorders can be linked to an unhealthy gut. Substance abuse. Oftentimes, people who are abusing certain substances, when we work with them and teach them how to clean up the diet and clean up the gut, they no longer have the need, they no longer have the desire. Erectile dysfunction, impotence, sexual dysfunction. When we look at what's in the research now with respect to low T, low testosterone, what's causing all those problems. So oftentimes it has so much to do with our diet and an unhealthy gut. What about neurological issues in children? Autism. Autism is often a late diagnosis. A family will take the child to the doctor and say, "Johnny just isn't keeping up with Susie at this age." And the doctor will say, "Well, you know, Johnny's a boy, Susie was a girl, no 2 children advance in the same way. Let's just watch them for another 6 months." We go in 6 months later, the same scenario, and the doctor says, "Well, you know, no 2 children are the same, no 2 children advance the same. Let's just watch them for another 6 months." And this goes on, sometimes for 18 months, until finally the diagnosis of autism is made. Now, I have a brief story that I tell. I was contacted by an individual. She and her husband could not conceive, and they elected to adopt a child from Russia. They adopted this baby when this baby was weeks old. And by the time they came to me, they had had this baby for 3 years. In those 3 years, the baby had never made any effort to engage with these people. Now, imagine how sad that story was. Can't conceive, can't have a child, are desperate, go ahead, adopt a child, and now they have this little being that literally is nothing more than an entity in their home. It was a very sad situation, and what I did was I encouraged them to do the protocol that I've put together to help to rebalance the gut. And this woman called me within 5 days to say that this child, who had never really uttered a word or cried except when they were hungry or needed to be changed, was making eye contact and making sounds. Now, that was in 5 days. What we know about the gut is the cells within the gut turn over very, very rapidly. And so when we talk about the gut with respect to children, especially, those cells turn over incredibly quickly. This child, who is now 7 years old, is doing exceedingly well. She was autistic. She did not communicate. She did not engage for over 3 years. So to know that we could change and have such an impact in such a short period of time was very, very exciting for us. Dyspraxia. Kiddos who have dyspraxia are literally out of sync with their environment. Dyslexics. Words are tough for dyslexics. The written word, the spoken word. Dyslexic children have a real tough time trying to spell and trying to write out words because of their dyslexia. I've worked with several children who had dyslexia. We fixed their diet and fixed their gut, and lo and behold, they're doing very, very well. ADD or ADHD, often diagnosed due to difficulty in language expression. So these kiddos, unfortunately, really struggle with their environment. And so oftentimes it's because of that impaired gut-brain axis. Also, we have a postmortem microbiome, and I'm just going to spend a minute talking about this, but I think it's fascinating to realize that our postmortem microbiome, our bacteria, and the bacterial changes that take place after we die can actually help them determine the accurate time of death, the accurate cause of death, the existing of health conditions at the time of death. All of these specific forensic facts can happen as a result of what happens to our microbiome once we die. So pretty fascinating from that perspective. So I'm just going to throw this up there. Many of you are familiar with my book, Why is America So Sick? It's a book that I wrote several years back. And I do want to give credit where credit is due. The editor of my book was Phyllis Anderson. And I can't pick up a copy of my book without thinking of Phyllis, because she put forth such effort and energy to actually go through my book word by word by word. And I appreciate so much what she did for me. But to get a copy of my book, if you're interested, you need to send me an email to drjconaway.com or go out to my website, drjconaway.com, and you can get a copy of my book there. Now, for those of you who are not in the United States, I will tell you that to try to get a copy of my book is outrageously expensive if I'm going to ship it overseas. So I usually don't ship my books overseas, and it's for that reason. The book itself is $24.95. To ship it overseas isn't like another $40-some. So I do not ship a lot overseas. The other information that's up here is the information about my Tuesday night call. I've done a conference call for longevity every Tuesday night since 2000. Well, actually the latter part of 1999. I've done it almost every Tuesday night. I hardly miss. And on that call, what I do is I share information like what I just shared with you now. I do give people the opportunity to email questions ahead of time and find out, from me answers to specific questions. But if you email a question ahead of time, it really does not, in my opinion, matter what the diagnosis is or what the concern is. I'm going to tell you the same thing, the same answer for nearly every single question I get. Clean up the diet, balance the gut, and take the 90 essential nutrients. Now, yes, we will add some things to those 90 essential nutrients, but so important, clean up the diet and balance the gut. You want to make sure that your gut is balanced so you're getting the best benefit from the nutrients that you're taking in. One of the things that has happened recently is I have been made aware of the fact that there's a medical facility in Detroit that is using my gut protocol with much success, literally much success. 83% of people who have come into that clinic who have followed that gut protocol and healthy diet, along with the 90 nutrients, 83%, no matter what the diagnosis, have seen improvement. And so, in my opinion, I think there's a lot to be said for the fact that a healthy gut is critically important. As I said in the beginning, we have amazing nutritionals in this company. But if you're not absorbing those nutritionals to the best of your body's ability, then it doesn't matter how good the nutritional is. Unfortunately, when we talk about spending our hard-earned money on good supplements, we want to make sure that they are being utilized best by the body. And in my opinion, the only way that's going to happen is if you have a healthy gut. And in my opinion, the only way you're going to have a healthy gut is to make sure that you're eating a healthy diet and make sure that you're taking the steps necessary to balance your gut. I do have a program that I put together. I put it together many years ago, and it incorporates several of the products within the longevity line to help to reestablish a healthy gut microbiome. And in my opinion, that's what you need in order to stay healthy. So I need to know if anyone has any questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Conaway. That was amazing. You have such a wealth of knowledge, and I've never even heard of some of those things you talked about. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And we do have a couple questions. So I'm gonna spotlight Phyllis, if you can unmute, and then you can talk to your good friend Phyllis, answer her questions for some people that are out there on the different platforms, and one that she has for herself. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. And Dr. Conaway, thank you for your very kind words. And I just want to say everybody who hears this needs to get your book. And because this is ground zero of health. And pharmacist Ben has just hammered this into us. The gut, the gut, the gut. You've got to, like you say, we're spending this money on nutrition. We want it to go to good effect. So
exactly.
Everybody, they need to get your book and get on your Zoom, and they will not be sorry.
Well, thank you, Phyllis. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions, possibly three, depending on time. First, on YouTube, we have Aaliyah. She has a male client who has done your 20-day gut protocol. Now, he is still constipated, and she said his diet is very protein rich, but very few, if any, vegetables. So she's wondering, is the lack of fiber the problem, and what else should she recommend?
Okay, there are a couple of ways to approach this, and this is what I will often tell people. And I alluded to the fact that there's that medical facility in Detroit using the program. And what they do, interestingly enough, is they have the people do it for 20 days and then turn around and do it again for another 20 days. That's the approach that they take, and they see tremendous results. So I would say first, consider repeating the program. But I would also say, if this is someone who eats high protein, not a lot of fiber, not a lot of fruits, not a lot of vegetables, not a lot of fiber, then that can still be a major contributor. The other question I would have is, how much water are they drinking? And how much exercise are they getting? Because those two things are critical. When we talk about water, water consumption is important to help make sure that we're flushing the kidneys, but it's also important to help with constipation. As far as exercise is concerned, what we know is the lymphatic system in the human body depends on the cardiovascular system to move things around. And if you're going to move things through the gut, you have to have a functioning lymphatic system. If you are sedentary, if you sit down all day, don't get up and move around, don't take a short walk. People say, oh, do I have to join a gym? I don't say join a gym and pump iron. I say stair step. Most people have at least one step in their homes, just up and down, up and down, up and down, or down and up, down and up, down and up, and do that for a few minutes every day. Get the heart pumping so that you get the lymphatic system pumping. because the lymphatic system doesn't have its own pump. It depends on the heart. And that increase in lymphatic flow will help to move things through the gut. So those are the ways that I personally approach constipation. And the other thing too is, of course, potential increased calcium and magnesium supplementation. When people come to me and they have constipation, what I will often do is recommend the Cal Toddy because it has so much magnesium in it. And I tell people, start out with an ounce a day. Now, some people say, oh, well, I take calcium 3 times a day. I'll just go ahead and take 3 ounces a day. That's usually not the best approach because it does have so much magnesium in it. And sometimes if people take 3 ounces a day of the Cal Toddy, they find that they can't get out of the bathroom. Okay. They have the opposite problem from constipation, but that is my personal go-to product. The OsteoMag is also another good product. If people don't want to do the Cal Toddy, the OsteoMag, and I recommend the OsteoMag at night. The OsteoMag is great in terms of helping to ensure that you're going to be more regular. So those are the things that I would recommend.
A lot of great information there. Second question, I have a male client. He is 70 years old. He's very fit, very active, has a very good diet, and we're working on that closely. We're working on the wheat, barley, rye, and oats, and I'm also alerting him to pay attention to what foods might be causing his digestive discomfort. He's been diagnosed with Barrett's esophagus. He has been on a protein pump inhibitor in the past. I don't know that he is right now. He has few other issues, if any. He may have some joint issues. Now, here's my challenge. He's very particular about which products he takes. So of ours, he's taking the enzymes, the Integris probiotics, the mineral capsules, the sweeties, and the EFAs, and he's getting his multi somewhere else. If he were to add one thing, because I don't think he'll do your 20-day protocol, much as I love it, if he were to add 1 or 2 things or switch something out, what would you think would be good?
I would do the microbiome twice a day. Now, the microbiome has so much of what the 20-day protocol has. It just doesn't have it in the same amounts as the 20-day protocol. But if people do that microbiome twice a day, it may take them a little bit longer to see the benefit or the result, but oftentimes they'll see a very good result. So microbiome twice a day would be my next recommendation. Because as you were describing this person, what I'm thinking is, let's fix the gut. He'll be fine.
Beautiful. I'll throw in one more very quick question because I know we have a few more. Regarding the I-26, which I know is one of your favorite products and mine, is it better to take it on an empty stomach? And is it okay to mix it with other powders that we have?
The big thing, number 1, you can take it anytime you want. Number 2, you can mix it with anything you want, with one exception, and that's never do that product, never do the I-26 product at the same time you're eating eggs. And people say, well, that's strange. It's an egg product. Yes, it is, but it's a specific egg product with specific egg antibodies. If you eat another egg with other antibodies, then it's going to literally confuse the system. I know to a lot of people that sounds crazy, but that is the basic recommendation. Any time of the day that you want, mixed with anything that you want, except do not take it at the same time you're eating eggs. So if you're using the I-26, make sure that you wait a couple hours before you eat an egg.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to our next caller.
All righty, thanks.
Thank you very much, Phyllis. Carmen, if you'd like to unmute.
Hi, Dr. Conaway. As you know, I'm still trying to fix my gut, and I am not eating any of the offended foods forever, years. And I noticed I just tried that virgin diet, and she wants you to not eat anything for 21 days, which it's been since December. And so I introduced cheese last week and the week before, and I had no problem with the cheese. But I put in some butter, and I got it from somebody else because I'm short on cash, and I think it was from Walmart. So I'm wondering, since I have a sensitive gut to gluten, and I know hair loss comes from gluten from a lot of people. I was wondering, if I get organic butter, will it make a difference and not lose my hair? Or is it just
from my perspective, when you're talking about butter, I do say definitely get organic butter. And I'm also, there are a lot of different butters out there. There are some butters out there that literally have gluten in them. So you have to be really careful what butter that you're getting, what butter that you're using, but definitely an organic. My favorite is Kerrygold. It is imported from Ireland, and they do things differently with their butter over there. You're not going to get all the additives and whatever else we find in butter here. So I would definitely say switch to an organic butter.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Carmen. And we're going to go to Bill, if you can unmute.
Thank you, Dr. Conaway. My question is regarding on the bad food list. It's not listed, but are some of us allergic or sensitivity to corn? I enjoy snacking on popcorn at night. And yes, it still has some oil on it, the bagged, and I'm not air popping. But even if I air pop it, are we still having problems with possibly corn?
Okay, so the big thing with corn is the majority of corn in this country is genetically modified. And that's
Correct.
why we have to be so very careful. So any genetically modified food is not healthy, especially corn, okay? However, popcorn is not genetically modified. So I say don't eat corn, but I myself will also eat popcorn from time to time because I know that popcorn is not genetically modified. Now, I do air pop my popcorn. It depends on what oil you're using, but again, we don't want to be using oils, especially hydrogenated oils, because they're so unhealthy. But eating popcorn is not the same as eating a can of corn or eating an ear of corn.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you very much, Bill. And then we have AJ with the rest of, and I'm so happy because I love popcorn. It's my comfort food with lots of good butter. Thank you. All right, AJ, if you want to unmute, and I will spotlight you.
Hello, Dr. Conaway.
Hi, AJ.
A couple quick questions, all related to food. How do you make that popcorn?
How do I make it? I have an air popper.
You have an air popper. Okay.
Yeah, I just pop it in my air popper.
There's no way to put it on the stove and do something with it, or?
It's very challenging to try to do it like that if you're not using any oils. And you shouldn't be using oils. So
We're not.
okay. But if you air pop your popcorn and do like Ruth Ellen said, put lots of good butter on it, a little bit of good healthy salt, it's yum. It may not taste like the theater popcorn because the theater popcorn has all of those other additives, but it can be very good, very enjoyable, and a comfort food.
We don't want anything tasting like oily theater popcorn. We don't.
Nope.
We don't do that.
Absolutely.
Or Orville for that matter. So a couple of things. I do love the fact that you're partial to the Kerrygold. That's great. And the people on YouTube, when I asked them what your favorite food was, it's 50-50 because they thought that you'd love a medium steak over lobster.
Okay, well, that's got to be my second favorite. Okay, so if I had to select a meal as my final meal, it would be surf and turf. It would be rare to medium rare steak and a lobster tail. So
yes, you should have been in politics. So I guess my question to you is, if folks wanted to learn more, what books would you recommend that they get? I'm just gonna say that first. What books would you recommend that folks obtain for their home library to empower themselves?
Okay, so whenever people ask me that question, of course, I'm very partial to my book because, again, I recognize the importance of the gut. Probably my second favorite book to help people to understand what we are all about and the healthy benefit of nutrition is Rare Earths, Forbidden Cures. That book by Dr. Wallach goes through all of the minerals and trace minerals, all of those rare earths that the body needs. We are so keenly aware in this company that the body does need minerals and trace minerals, but not everyone is so aware. And so many people think that, oh, well, I have to get my vitamins. My vitamins are important. The really important thing to understand with respect to vitamins is minerals can work in the body without vitamins, but vitamins don't work well in the body without minerals, without the mineral cofactors. And so people will often have questions about things like arsenic. Why is there arsenic in your mineral product? In the book, Dr. Wallach spells out very clearly that the body does have a need for arsenic, certainly not in large amounts, but it does have a need for arsenic. The body has a need for lead. The body has a need for all of these minerals and trace minerals. But I think probably the more important thing, in my opinion, is the understanding that if people have toxic overload, people who, for example, have mercury poisoning because they have too much mercury in their system, if you use our minerals, because our minerals are colloidal minerals, exactly, they will actually help to neutralize the elemental or metallic form of the mineral and move it out of the body. So I think it's important for people to understand that. And when I have people who come to me who are, for example, they've been told that they have mercury poisoning, or they've been told that they have too much mercury in their system, many of them have gone through the appropriate removal of some of their cavities, some of their amalgam, okay? And that's a whole process. Don't go to just any dentist and have them remove the amalgam. You have to have, certain instruments and certain vacuum and all of those things to get the mercury out of your teeth and out of your system as much as possible, okay? A good biological dentist will know how to do that and how to take care of you doing that. But then I suggest to those people that they take 4 ounces a day of our minerals to, again, help to neutralize whatever remains in the body.
Wow. And can you enumerate for the folks the name of your book, and I'm assuming, and then where can they get it?
Okay. The name of the book is Why is America So Sick? Okay. And you can get it by going out to my website, D.R.J. Conaway, CONAWAY.com, drjconaway.com.
And that's interesting because you can get the Rare Earths Forbidden Cures by calling DRJ Wallach at 800-755-4656. I never really, today's the first time I put your two sites together in that vein, the DRJ part. But you are brilliant and
well, thank you.
Very pleasant, and I love going to your weekly Zooms when I can make those. But having you here, talking to everyone else, it's really fantastic. Thank you.
Well, thank you, AJ. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, AJ. That's awesome. So I did have a couple questions that came in from the Zoom chat. And one is from Linda, and she said, is the 20-day gut repair program the same as it was years ago? And is microbiome product better than just taking the Flora FX?
Okay, first of all, it depends on how many years ago. I did revise the program when we got the I-26. The I-26, for years, just so you know, for years, what I did was I kind of force-fed probiotics. And that's because we know that the good healthy bacteria will compete for the same sites on the cell wall membrane as the unhealthy bacteria. So if you flood your system with good healthy probiotics, you move out some of that bad bacteria. lo and behold, microbiome comes along and takes care of that problem for us. That microbiome does an amazing job. So, or I'm sorry, the I-26 does an amazing job helping to get rid of the bad bacteria. And that's what we're trying to do. Okay. So it's not exactly the same as it was years ago. And because of things that I've learned working with people, I have added a couple of things. So if people want a copy of the gut restoration protocol, or we've renamed it several times, but it's the gut repair protocol now, I think. And if people want a copy of the gut repair protocol, they just need to send me an email at AskTheDoctor, all spelled out, AskTheDoctor at drjconaway.com.
Okay. Perfect.
And I can send that. And what was the second half of the question? I apologize.
Oh, no worries. And she said, is the microbiome product better than the Flora FX?
Absolutely, hands down. Okay, the Flora FX product is a product that has 3 strains of bacteria. The microbiome product has much more than that. Plus, it has the I-26, which helps to remove the bad bacteria. In my opinion, the best probiotic product that we have in the line is the Nightly Essence. And the reason I say that is because it has 14 different strains of healthy gut bacteria, not just the 3 strains that we find in the Flora FX. So that's why it's part of my protocol. It's so important, in my opinion, to get multiple different strains. And again, we've learned so much more about the gut over the course of the last couple of decades. When we talk about doing a product like the Flora FX, some people want to take probiotics every single day. You take the Flora FX every single day, you're taking 3 different strains of healthy bacteria. And what ultimately can happen is you mono-inoculate your gut, meaning now your gut has lots of those 3 strains, but not so much of the other strains. And that's one of the reasons why I am so particular when it comes to the probiotic. I want it to be the product that's going to give you the best advantage, and that's going to be the Nightly Essence.
Yeah, I love the Nightly Essence. I think it's amazing. And I also like that it has bromelain in it and some enzymes in it to help you clean out like some of the stuff that's stuck in your gut. And
right. And the other thing too, though, that's so important about that Nightly Essence product is the enzymes that are in that product are systemic enzymes, not all gut enzymes, not all digestive enzymes. They're systemic enzymes, like the nattokinase is an amazing enzymatic product for helping to clean out the bloodstream. Okay. C-Prozess is a great enzyme product for the respiratory system. So when we start talking about enzymes, enzymes are fascinating in terms of their ability to do the things that they do. But when we talk about enzymes, so oftentimes people think about just gut enzymes and digestive enzymes. We have so many other enzyme systems in the body. Our superoxide dismutase, for example, glutathione peroxidase. Remember, anytime a word ends in ASE, that indicates an enzyme. And superoxide dismutase isn't a gut enzyme. It's a systemic enzyme. It helps to clean up the trash in the body. Glutathione peroxidase, again, it's an enzyme that's a systemic enzyme, not a digestive enzyme. And that's one of the reasons people say, okay, so there's some enzymes in the Nightly Essence. Why do I also have to take Ultimate Enzymes? They're different enzyme products.
yes, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And nattokinase is so critical.
Absolutely.
Well. It just helps so much with your circulatory system and cleaning things out that shouldn't be there. It's one of my favorite products, Nightly Essence. And
Yep.
I will recommend that hands down above any of the other probiotics. Yeah. And okay, so Nancy is saying that she's looking forward to getting your program because she just left the GI doctor. And then she says, what time for microbiome?
It doesn't really matter.
Anytime, as long as you didn't just eat eggs.
Exactly.
And it's about 2 hours, or is it 3 after eating?
I say 2 hours after you've eaten eggs. If you're going to take it somewhere in the middle of the day, make sure that you take it at least 2 hours after you've eaten eggs.
Okay.
And at least an hour to 2 hours before you eat eggs.
Okay. Yeah, I like to mix mine with the Restore because I'm taking it at night because I eat eggs every day in the morning. It's like my easy meal.
There you go. Yeah.
my husband
Easy
makes
meal,
a
healthy
lot of-
meal. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
Yep.
soft-boiled eggs. So I eat soft-boiled eggs in the morning. That is really good. And then there was a popcorn question.
Okay.
And it is Nancy again is asking, what about microwave the
Oh,
popcorn in a brown paper bag? Yeah, microwave food is not good.
I do not recommend you microwave anything. I mean, I'll be honest, and I tell people, I am honest, I have a microwave in my house. The microwave in my house is strictly to be used for fusing glass. It's one of the things that I enjoy doing. I do not use my microwave for food. When you use a microwave for food, even if it's just water, people say, oh, well, it's just my water. I just heat up my water for tea. You are changing the molecular structure of whatever you are microwaving. You are zapping it with a microwave. And so, no, please do not put your popcorn in a paper bag in the microwave. Definitely don't do microwave popcorn from any of the brand name popcorns. I mean, that's one of the most lethal things you can do to your body. But no, I wouldn't microwave my popcorn.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when microwaves first came out, I think 10 years after they came out, somebody did a test. And they took a group of trees and they put them in the same window. They separated them by like a foot or two. And one side, one group of trees got the water that was microwaved and then allowed to cool. And the other ones got regular water out of the tap or the garden hose. And the microwave trees died.
Yep.
So, you think you're just heating up your water or your coffee. I have a little saucepan, my egg pan. That's what I use to heat up water if I need it water. And I also have a kettle. Well, if I'm doing coffee, rewarming coffee or soup or something, and I have a little kettle that's electric that we just put the filtered water in and plug it in, and then we have hot water because the microwave is just not good.
And there are so many people who still use the microwave all the time.
That is true. That is true. All right. Well, it is 4:05, Dr. Conaway, and I just really want to thank you for coming on today. It's a true pleasure to have you on, not only because you're a joy to have on.
Oh, well, thank you.
I mean, I've enjoyed all of the talks that you've given at the different conferences I've gone to, and you're just a wealth of knowledge, and you really care about people. You have the knowledge of the wisdom of a doctor, but the compassion of a nurse. And, I have that on a graphic that I have for you.
Yeah, my husband came up with that for the back of my business card.
It's beautiful. And it's very true because you can see it from two sides.
And that is one of the blessings that I have. People say to me, you have so much knowledge. Part of that is because I spent over 40 years in the hospital setting. And now I've spent the last 25 years on the all natural side of the house. I have the unique perspective of being able to look at both and have a very good understanding and comprehension of both. And that's why I'm as passionate as I am about the things that I talk about.
Well, I love your passion, and I just love what you bring to the world.
Well, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And is your book by chance available on Kindle?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just asking.
No, I probably need to make sure. It's interesting. A friend of ours, a good friend of all of ours, sent me a text several months back, and he said, wow, look at this. I didn't realize you were making so much money on your book. It was my book out on Amazon. Now, I've never put my book on Amazon, but it was my book on Amazon, and it was going for like $85 or something like that. I wanted a picture of my book today, and I couldn't come up with my picture of my book real quickly. So I just went out to Amazon to see if in fact it was out there. And yes, indeed it was. And that's how I copied the picture. But today it was on sale for like 69% off or something like that. And it was $61 and change. And I'm thinking, I've never sold my book for that amount of money.
Oh.
But some people are. It had pretty good ratings, though. For the 7 people who rated it, it had pretty good ratings out there. I don't know who's selling my book on Amazon. I don't have a clue, but it's not me. And it's certainly not me selling it for that kind of money.
That is a lot of money. Your book is invaluable. It's priceless.
But it's not worth that much.
No, no, because we want everybody to be able to get it out there. All right. So okay, if I can have my co-host come up, then we'll close out the show. And I just can't thank you enough. And I'm looking forward to the possibility of you coming back again. That would be awesome when your schedule allows, because you are a busy woman and you love your family and you always take time out for your family. And that is really, really important. You know?
Very important. And then I do take those occasional trips when I visit people like Phyllis. We were just together, last month? So yeah, it was just after the first of the year. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Recently, it was wonderful.
always a good time with them. So
Thank you.
well, thank you so much for having me. This has been delightful. And I will look forward to coming back again.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. So
Thank you.
I will get in touch with you in a couple of days. Well, I'll call you later, actually.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go by the pictures on my screen. So Kaylee is here with us. She is a student intern who's here to learn about anything technical, anything to have to do with social media and marketing. And I forget what your major is. Kaylee, can you tell us?
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing. Okay, that's what I thought. All right,
Nice.
perfect. We're so glad that you are here with us. You are a true gem and we enjoy you. And then we have Sherry, who is helps get what I send out to Restream. She makes sure it gets out there from there to other platforms. And so we can be on multiple places at once instead of just here in this one Zoom room. And I'm really grateful for you, Sherry. And then, of course, we have Phyllis, who's amazing, who's also out there on Facebook and different platforms, making sure that disclaimers out there and different things that need to be, questions get brought in and everything. And she helps monitor things for me. And then we have Albert. Sorry, my grandkids gave me a little tiny cold. And he is from South Africa. And we are very grateful for him to be here because he lets people into the Zoom room. He modifies if your phone number is showing so that you have privacy, so nobody can get your phone number. And he is also our bouncer today. And thank you for that. And also he's part of our call team, and he is the one that would answer the phone for the call team in the middle of the night when the rest of us are sleeping, because it's 10 o'clock or later in South Africa. And then we have AJ, who is our digital marketing director, and he helps everything get from where we set up and beyond. Like, I can't even tell you the platforms we're on, and it's because of AJ and helping us out there. And you're a true gem. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so I just want to, and I didn't say this earlier, and I'm sorry, but if somebody referred you to this program, please make sure to get back with them. They will be the one that will help you with any questions that you have, or if you want to get product or whatever, because we want to keep our integrity, and we just want you to get back with the person that referred you to this program. Also, we have AJ gave us Dr. Wallach's. Did you give us Dr. Wallach's phone number? I forgot to put it on my desk. Excuse me. AJ, do you have it? Oh, Marilyn. We have Marilyn. I don't know where she was hiding. She is fingers, and she does dictation, and she has been typing away the whole time Dr. Conaway has been talking. And so Dr. Wallach's books, you can get it 800-755-4656. And also Dr. Conaway's email address was AskTheDoctor@drjconaway.com. So
Correct.
you can get information from her, and you can find books on her website, which would be the drjconaway.com.
Correct.
Then our phone team phone number is 855-949-3377. And one of our holistic health coaches will get back in touch with you when you, if you leave a message, or they'll answer the phone. So please do that. And then everyone, very important, be kind. Be kind to everyone. You don't know what kind of a day somebody's having, and you don't know what's going on in their life. And, a smile goes a long way. So just be kind. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And we will see you tomorrow. We have Dr. Laura Dennison on tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you then. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Welcome to Daily with Doc and Becca. This program is for educational purposes only. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual sharing their testimony. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you do have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.